and manufactured by proudly South Africans for South Africans in South Africa.
It's time for Nico Kleynhans, exclusively on Breakfast with Friends.
And it's a great privilege and honor to say good morning, sir, and thank you for coming through to our studios here in Muizenberg. So the big question is, have we passed or are we failing when it comes to our economy subjects and things like that?
Well, your opinion on South Africa really depends on where you're looking for the answers. So if you are living in the Eastern Cape, in the largest city in the Eastern Cape, and you dialed for emergency services, you're in trouble.
Oh dear.
Because that city has 1.2 million, and their police force, the flying squad, has one vehicle.
Oh no.
And that vehicle has 300,000 kilometers on the dial. So the chances are you're not going to get help.
Nobody's
If that's where you're living and that's your emergency, you're going to come to the conclusion that we are a failed state.
Yeah.
We had a mini budget a couple of days ago. And there the Minister of Finance decided that the CPI target was going to be changed. And he was going to lower the target. Now, that means that if you have debt, he's not going to lower the interest rate on that debt, and you are going to keep paying a higher rate on your debt. So if you owe a lot of money, you're not going to like what he has done, and it's going to be a bad decision from your perspective. However, if you've got a lot of money in the bank, what he's decided is going to count in your favor, because it means the bank is not going to drop the interest that they pay you. So then you're going to say, well, this is a great country to live in. I'm going to get more interest here than I'm going to get elsewhere. He then also decided that he wants to have a new state-owned enterprise for South Africa. Now, we've got 350 of these. One makes a profit. All the others run at a loss. And I had a picture in my mind of a donkey. You know, you can put as much lipstick on that donkey and you can hang as many earrings on the ear. It's still going to be a donkey.
Yeah.
Now, this new donkey or this new state-owned enterprise is going to be a vehicle that's going to handle all the wonderful repairs that have to be carried out in South Africa. And the decision of putting it under one new umbrella is because the other state-owned enterprises have failed. Now, the belief is that this one new state-owned enterprise is going to do what the others have not done. And he's now putting 2 billion rand into that new state-owned enterprise and wants another 15 billion rand.
No ways.
Now, what the Minister of Finance doesn't seem to get, it's no good having rules in place if those rules are not enforced. If you give a tender to a professional person who survives off tenders, and that person has not produced the goods on the previous 20 tenders, they're not going to produce the goods now.
Exactly.
Learn from mistakes.
Come on.
So if I were to take that as the benchmark, I'm very nervous about what he wants to do. And I don't believe it's necessarily going to work. Now, he's also very proud of how much money SARS has raised in the previous 12 months.
Okay.
And it does look impressive until you begin to break down how much SARS has in fact raised. Now you start noticing on auto assessments, there is a case where one person owed 2 South African cents on an auto assessment.
Yeah.
They didn't pay the 2 cents. So they were penalized by 1,700 rand.
No ways.
And that was counted in the budget as part of what SARS was raised.
No, that's insane.
You cannot count money as having been received if it's still subject to a dispute.
Exactly.
And listeners will know so many of them are now in dispute with SARS about the taxes.
Yeah.
But that has been counted as if it's already been received. And I have problems with that.
Yeah.
But if you look at the stats, the informal economy is growing faster than the formal economy. So the informal is growing faster than the formal. That's good news. The bad news is the informal economy is not being taxed. They haven't found a way to do that.
Okay.
And so they're going to these informal markets and they're beginning to check whether people are registered for tax.
Okay.
That's the good news.
Okay.
Because we've got millions of refugees in this country who are largely in the informal sector.
Yeah.
But they need to start paying tax. If they want to live here, they need to start paying taxes. Yesterday, somebody was sentenced to 6 years in jail. He's a tax practitioner. And he found it was easy to get illegal VAT refunds. It's a major problem we have right now, where people manipulate the VAT rules, get refunds which they are not entitled to. In fact, if they could block that process, they could get the same amount of VAT and drop the VAT to 6% from 15%. It's a way that SARS is now beginning to work. That, for me, is good news.
That is.
Because now they're beginning to look at a place where we can look at the tax.
Yeah.
We can look at cheating, and we can all benefit from that. So that, for me, is a step forward and an important step forward. But in case you're wondering, if we look at how much tax we pay as individuals, 37% of what SARS raises comes from you and me, individuals. That brings in 25% of what they raise. Companies bring in 18%.
What?
There was a time when companies paid more than we did as individuals.
Exactly.
Now we're paying more than double what companies are bringing in.
That's insane.
So as individuals, we're really being at the limit of what we can afford.
Exactly.
And every time those increases come through, we lose a couple of the wealthier people. They just pack up and go off to Perth. So there, if we look at that stat, then it becomes a negative issue again. But are things improving? I believe so, yes. The one thing government has decided is that government workers above a certain age should be given incentives to retire early. I think that's a good idea. Those people tend to be paid more. Unfortunately, I don't see any cabinet taking up that offer, and I would like some of them to go. Because quite frankly, a lot of them are useless.
Yeah.
I really would like to see some of the deputy ministers go, because they don't even attend cabinet meetings.
What?
And if they were to cut even 5 deputy positions, it would save billions within the fiscus.
Wow.
I would like to see that go.
Yeah.
But politically, I understand why Ramaphosa can't do that. He uses those positions to keep support.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful that the Minister of Finance decided to cancel his one idea that he did have, and that was to cut the medical aid credits.
Okay.
He decided we can keep those, and that makes a difference for those of us who had to pay in on medical aids. At least we got something back. And lastly, for those who still want to look to the other countries, did you know that the FTSE JSE top index from January to around October in US dollar terms, grew by 55%.
Wow.
That was more than the
positive.
world index grew, because that only grew by 30% in dollar terms.
Sure.
So if you think it's easier to fly off to another country where they use the dollars and you're going to get better off, no, that's not true. We can be a lot more proud of what we are, and I do believe we are making progress. I do believe we are better off today than we were 5 years ago and 10 years ago.
Sure.
Have a good day.
Thank you, Nico. Appreciate it.